About 4 p.m. the enemy's artillery in front of us ceased firing all of a sudden, and we saw large masses of cavalry advance. Not a man present who survived could have forgotten in after life the awful grandeur of that charge. You perceived at a distance what appeared to be an overwhelming, long-moving line which, ever advancing, glittered like a stormy wave of the sea when it catches the sunlight. On came the mounted host until they got near enough, whilst the very earth seemed to vibrate beneath their thundering tramp. One might suppose that nothing could have resisted the shock of this terrible moving mass. They were the famous cuirassiers, almost all old soldiers, who had distinguished themselves on most of the battlefields of Europe. In an almost incredibly short period they were within 20 yards of us, shouting "Vive l'Empereur!" The word of command, "Prepare to receive cavalry," had been given. Every man in the front ranks knelt, and a wall of bristling with steel, held together by steady hands, presented itself to the infuriated horsemen. I shall never forget the strange noise our bullets made against the breastplates of Kellermann's and Milhaud's cuirassiers, 6 or 7,000 in number, who attacked us with great fury. I can only compare it, with a somewhat homely smile, to the noise of a violent hailstorm beating upon panes of glass. The artillery did great execution, but our musketry did not at first seem to kill many men, though it brought down a large number of horses and created indescribable confusion. The horses of the first rank of cuirassiers, in spite of all the efforts of their riders, came to a standstill, shaking and covered with foam at about 20 yards distance from our squares, and generally resisted all attempts to force them to charge the line of serried steel. On one occasion, 2 gallant French officers forced their way into a gap momentarily created by the discharge of artillery. One was killed by Staples, the other by Adair. Nothing could be more gallant than the behaviour of those veterans. In the midst of our terrible fire, their officers were seen as if on parade, keeping order in their ranks and encouraging them. Unable to renew the charge, but unwilling to retreat, they brandished their swords with cries of "Vive l'Empereur!" and allowed themselves to be mowed down by hundreds rather than yield. Our men, who shot them down, could not help admiring the gallant bearing and heroic resignation of their enemies.